Hello chess lovers, in today's video we will learn about the movement of the chess pieces. So they are the chess pieces that you can see on the screen: rook, knight, bishop, king, queen and the pawn. So today we will learn how does the rook move, how does the knight move, how does the bishop move, how does the king move, how does the queen move and how does the pawn move. So in the very starting of the game, rook moves to the straight line. So it is the standing line. Rook can move to the last h8 square or h7 or h6 or h5 or to the h4 or h3 or h2. Well, suppose if we move our rook, then it is of course black's turn, and after the black's move we can move our rook to the horizontally and vertically. So we can say that the rook can move up, down, right and left, but in the straight line. So we can also move our rook backwards, upwards and the sideways. Okay, now how does the knight move? The knight is on the black square. Black and blue, they both are same, so the knight will move to the opposite color square. So on the white square the knight can go, but how many squares? Two and half. So one, two and the half. So two squares to the up and one square to the right, one square to the left, or one square up and two squares to the left, but on the right hand side there are no squares. So two and a half squares for the knight, knight f3, and after the knight f3 I can move to the e5, I can move to the d4, I can move to the d2, I can move it to the g1, to the h4, to the g5 squares. On all the black squares the knight can jump. That means knight moves on the opposite color square, but only two and a half square. Now how does the bishop move? Bishop moves diagonally. The bishop is on the light square. The light square is known as the white square. So the bishop moves on the white squares only, but in the diagonal only. For example, I can move my bishop to the c4 square diagonally, and I can move any number of squares, like on the g8 also I can move, on the e6 I can move, I can move to the c8 also, I can move to the a6 also, I can move to the d3, I can move to the b1. For example, suppose I want to go uh, to the c6 square, then I can move my bishop to the e4 and then on the c6 square. For example, I want to move my bishop again on the f1, then I can put my bishop on the g2 and I can put my bishop on f1. Also, I can put my bishop on the b5 followed by the move bishop f1. So bishop moves diagonally. What about the king? The king moves only one step to the right, left, up, down, diagonal, any square, but only one step. Suppose I want to go here, so I can go king d2 and king d3, for example, like this. I cannot jump like knight here also. So I can also go king e2, king d3. So think in your mind, if I want to move my king to the e4 square, how many moves it will take? Of course, it will take three moves: king e2, king e3 and the king e4. Very good. Suppose I want to move my king on h4, then it will take three moves: king f2, king g3, king h4. So the king can move diagonally, up, down, right and left, but only one step to the nearby square. Now what about the queen? The queen is the most strongest piece on the chessboard because it can move in any direction, but not like knight. The queen can move like the rook, like the bishop and like the pawn. How like the pawn? I will teach you. First of all, we will learn how does the pawn move. So in the very starting, if the white pawns are on the second rank, you can see the second number, the pawn can move two squares, but after that it will move one step. And if pawn reaches to the end square, we can create these four pieces: queen, rook, bishop and knight. So we can turn our pawn, we can promote our pawn into the queen, or we can promote our pawn after two squares. The pawn can move one, and if the pawn reaches to the end square, we can create rook, bishop, knight. So we can create number of queens. For example, if we have eight, for example, if we have eight pawns, of course we have eight pawns, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So we can create eight queens which will be very very powerful, and we have already one queen, so it will be 9 queens on the chessboard. But practically it is not possible because in the game most of the pawns will get exchanged. So today we learned how does the pieces move, and the what about the queen? The queen can move into the diagonal straight line, but not like knight, and also one step like the pawn, like queen d2, queen d3, like the king also, right? So queen d2, queen d3, queen d4, also to the diagonal like this, straight line in the diagonal to the b1. In the straight line we can move our queen to the b8. In the diagonal we can move our queen to the h2. In the straight line we can move our queen to the c2, and also like the king, one step like queen b2 sideways, like queen c2, queen d2, or in the diagonal one step queen e3, or like the pawn queen e4, queen e5. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and knight is the only piece who can jump over the pieces. So please follow Star Chess Academy. Thanks for watching.